A Bride's Edition. Western Destinies. By Blythe Carver. Chapter 1. Luke Turner could hardly believe his eyes. At this time last year, he and his best friend, Dylan Sullivan, had been looking into ways to get the money together to start a magazine. Now they were sitting in the office of Judge Carter Holbrook while he outlined papers approving financial backing for their magazine, though it was no longer a magazine based on men and politics. It had taken some convincing, but Luke and Maddie, Dylan's new wife, who just happened to be the daughter of the Honorable Judge Holbrook, had gotten Dylan on board with a magazine for mail-ordered brides, which was all the rage, especially in Bighorn, Texas, other western states. There weren't enough women, it was clear to see, and men were desperate to have wives and families. At the same time, immigrants were coming across the eastern border, and South Carolina, Virginia, and New York were gradually becoming overpopulated. Women wanted a way out. It seemed like a win-win situation to Luke and Maddie. "Here you go," Judge Holbrook said, sliding the papers in their direction across the surface of his desk. "All signed and ready to go. You take this to the bank, and they'll open an account for your expenses. You'll have this much here," he tapped his pen on the paper over a number he'd written, "to use for starting up and getting that second printing press you require. You will need to get 2 more employees to run the press without a lot of stress. You'll also want to get some females to write advertisements. Men don't know what to say, do they?" He cracked a grin. Luke and Dylan returned his smile. Luke let his friend get the documents first. This was Dylan's dream, his baby. Even though Luke would be doing most of the work, he knew how much having the new magazine up and running meant to Dylan. "I don't know how to thank you enough, Judge Holbrook," Dylan said, lifting up from the chair and leaning over the desk, one hand extended. The judge also stood up and took his son-in-law's hand. "Just don't ever call me Pops, and we will get along just fine." The judge laughed, slapping his other hand on Dylan's elbow as he shook his hand. The 2 men laughed in a way that made Luke feel a little left out. Not because he was insecure, but just because he realized the 2 of them were actually relatives, and he was the third wheel. Luke was not in any way an insecure man. He just wasn't used to not having Dylan as his sidekick. Since he married, Luke had of course seen him much less than he had before. He and Dylan had been living together. Dylan had recently purchased a ranch, which was why Luke would be doing most of the work at the magazine, and he lived there with Maddie. Luke expected soon they would start a family, and he would never see Dylan again. Unless he also had a family. Luke.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?